You wanted to see me, sir?
Yes, it's about this script for the new Snow White movie.
I do hope you liked it, sir.
Well, that's just it. It's a little old-fashioned, and some of the things in there just won't resonate with the modern audience. So we're gonna need you to cut a few things from the movie.
Well, of course, sir. I'm a team player. What would you like me to cut?
Well, first of all, the prince. That's definitely out. Then there's the kiss. No kiss. Cleaning the house, baking pies, the witch, the poisoned apple, the curse, the magic mirror, and let's see, the dwarfs.
I beg your pardon, sir, but that's just about the entire story. What's left for me to work with?
Well, anything that's not on this list, it's really up to you. You're the writer.
Forgive me for saying, sir, but if there's so much about this story that modern audiences don't like, why are we making this movie?
Are you kidding? This is Snow White. It's a classic. Everybody loves Snow White.
So what you're saying is everybody loves Snow White, so we have to change everything about Snow White so that people will like it.
Exactly. Now you've got it.
Ah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Commander Go review of Disney's Snow White, the live-action remake of the animated classic that started it all. Now, before I begin the review, I did want to take a look at the merch available for Snow White. Now, I did hear there was very little merchandising done for this new Snow White movie, but looking around, there was a little bit of Snow White merchandise available, and I wanted to show that to you here. In particular, I did want to point out this awesome Lego Dwarf's Cottage. If you're a Lego fan and a Snow White fan, that looks like a fantastic piece for you. And a few dolls and that sort of thing as well. And now, to help me introduce the Snow White review, please welcome one of the stars of the original animated classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Please welcome Sleepy. Hello, Sleepy. Welcome to the show. Well, Sleepy, would you like to tell the audience what it was like working on the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs all those years ago? Okay, well, do you have any thoughts about how this new version of Snow White compares to the original that you were in? Well, it looks like Sleepy has to go now, so we'll just say goodbye to Sleepy. Well, that was Sleepy, ladies and gentlemen. Let's thank him for coming on the show today, and let's just get on with it. By the way, if you would like to see more content about pop culture, movies, and TV, then click that subscribe button. And hey, it just might brighten your day too. And now, on with the show. Snow White is the latest live-action remake of an animated classic from Walt Disney Pictures. It stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. It begins with a princess named Snow White being born to a happy king and queen in a prosperous kingdom. Later, the queen dies and the king remarries, choosing a lady of captivating beauty and mysterious magic powers from a distant land as his new queen. When the new queen brings word of a threat to the kingdom on a distant shore, the king leaves to lead his soldiers in battle for the protection of his kingdom. The queen is left to rule the kingdom while the king is away, but it soon becomes clear that the queen's only concerns are for her own comfort and vanity. The people of the kingdom fall into poverty, and Snow White is ordered to dress in rags and work as a scullery maid in her own home. One day, Snow White catches a thief stealing potatoes from the castle, and learns from him of the suffering of the people and how he and others have banded together in the woods as bandits to steal in the name of the king for the good of the people. When the guards bring the bandit before the queen, Snow White pleads with her stepmother for some kindness towards this thief and towards the people in general. This angers the queen and leads her to sentence the thief to a more severe punishment. But Snow White secretly sets the thief free, and he flees into the woods. The queen then asks her magic mirror who is the fairest of all. When the mirror answers Snow White, the queen then orders her huntsman to kill her. The huntsman takes Snow White to pick apples on the edge of the woods. He draws his dagger, but cannot bring himself to carry out the queen's sinister order. Instead, he urges Snow White to run away into the woods. Snow White runs, but then happens upon a cottage in the woods and stops there to rest. She soon falls asleep. She awakens to find the owners of the cottage, the 7 dwarfs, have returned. Upon learning who she is, the dwarfs offer to let her stay. But staying will put the dwarfs at risk once the queen realizes that she's alive. Instead, she decides to leave and look for the bandits. Since the bandits claim to operate on behalf of the king, she thinks they might know where her father is and how to contact him. Now Snow White must team up with the bandits and try to find her father and bring him home so that he can reclaim his throne from the evil queen. I went into this movie wanting to come out of it with positive things to say. I didn't expect it to be as good as the animated classic, live-action remakes never are, but I was hoping to be able to at least say it was pretty good for what it was. Unfortunately, this didn't turn out to be true. The movie is marketed as a retelling of the Disney version of the Snow White story, but the elements that call back to the original animated movie make up only about 20% of this new movie, and this 20% feels rushed and uninspired. It's as though the filmmakers were including this 20% out of obligation and had no interest in telling this story at all. The remaining 80% tells a different story. This story, while it did not feel authentic to Snow White, did seem somewhat familiar. After giving it some thought, I think I figured out where I have heard this story before. It's about a good king who is called away from his kingdom to fight a war. The next in line for the throne assumes control of the kingdom, but is selfish and cruel, causing the people to suffer. A band of outlaws soon arises to fight for the people. A member of the royal family also opposes the new ruler and defects to join the outlaws and falls in love with the leader of the outlaws. Yes, this movie is the story of Robin Hood and Maid Marian, not Snow White. So the conclusion I reached was that the filmmakers had no interest in the story of Snow White and instead wanted to tell a version of Robin Hood that expands the role of Maid Marian, making her the main character. Then, out of obligation, they shoehorned in the Snow White story. In fact, if you cut everything related to Snow White from the movie and changed only a few minor details, you would still have a complete story. The Snow White elements, the parts that I came to see, were completely superfluous and came across as meaningless padding. The movie is a musical, like the animated version, but the songs are almost entirely original to this movie, and quite forgettable. Only Hi-Ho and Whistle While You Work, and about 30 seconds of the Dwarfs' Yodel song, made it into this movie. Instead of classics like I'm Wishing, One Song, With a Smile in a Song, and Someday My Prince Will Come, there are a number of new songs throughout the movie, but they all lack the charm of the original songs, so you won't likely find yourself humming them as you leave the theater. One song in particular should really have been cut from the final film. It was a song for Gal Gadot's Evil Queen. I am kind of a fan of Gal Gadot, but even I have to admit, she's not a singer. Plus the lyrics are just unintentionally silly, and served to undermine any sense of menace in the villain's performance. One of the few positives, however, is Rachel Zegler's singing voice. Whatever else you may be able to say about her, she certainly can sing. I just wish they had given her better songs to work with. To continue on a positive note, I can also say that I liked the production design. The sets and costumes created an authentic and pleasing fairy tale world, except for the CGI design for the dwarfs. The dwarfs were too deep in the uncanny valley to look pleasing. I really can't recommend Snow White to anyone who likes the story of Snow White. But anyone who doesn't like Snow White has probably already written off the movie because of the title and the marketing. Still, the fact that this movie was released does mean that there is a lot of buzz now generating interest in Snow White. So if this has piqued your curiosity about Snow White, there is a fantastic Disney animated Snow White movie that you can stream right now on Disney+.